Good day, everybody. I would like to welcome everyone to Devilish Scents. I go by Darren the Devil. Today, I have a very special episode for you guys. I have perfumer Rajesh Balkrishnan, also known as Raj Balkrishnan. I'm going to be calling him Raj for this video. So today, since we are in a beautiful location here in the Pacific Northwest and he is visiting, I have 3 of his compositions. He has made 3, and as what he has told me is all 3 of these are based off of mystical feelings or places.
Right.
Okay.
Right. So that's the purpose of my perfumery, is to create unique scents that take people to places which are exotic and unknown, and which are often feared, things of the past, places which feel often surreal, mystical. And so that's what you have in the 3 perfumes in your bag there.
Awesome. All right. And I did want to thank you for bringing these,
Thank you.
for sharing your babies with me.
Oh, sure.
I have had so much fun with all 3 of these compositions. Now, which one came out first? Was
Aranyaka came out first.
Okay,
yeah.
let's start with Aranyaka then.
Yes.
Okay. So, I originally got Aranyaka in Haxan. It was actually by chance. I was looking up on the Prin Parfume website, and I saw that they had Haxan on there. Now, this is Aranyaka, and that's how I actually got in hold with Rajesh here, was I saw that he was always posting stuff about Prin Parfume, and so I took a second to ask him about Haxan, and he said that it was discontinued, and he also told me about Aranyaka, which was discontinued, and I looked them both up, and I remembered Haxan when I originally was doing my investigation on Prin Parfum, and so he still had some bottles and was generous enough to sell me Haxan and Aranyaka. So I have been testing these for a few months. So the first one is Aranyaka. Now, it might be hard to see out here, but it is a dark juice, as you can see. It does have some of the notes or the essentials that were used right here. Goat hair, cypriol, cypress absolute, leather, frankincense, a soil accord, castoreum, civet, oak moss, nutmeg, saffron, cloves, lavender, and beeswax. Now, before I kind of let you get into what this one's about, I'll just kind of tell you what I get. So initially, when I first spray this, I get a very sexy burnt incense type accord, and then gently this wet oak moss starts mixing with its way in with this dirty, almost like how do you say, compost soil, very rich, dark soil that starts to come through with that oak moss, and it's very wet, dark, and also very inviting from the smokiness of the frankincense, that kind of burnt charred wood smoke with the incense. And you do get an animalic vibe from, I would say the castoreum kind of lends a hand, but it's more of a sweet rowdiness that comes into it. But really, this animalic accord that comes is from this heavy use of goat hair. And really, that is really the most dark but also complex about this. It makes it very different. So why don't you tell everyone kind of what your idea behind this
Sure.
was?
So when I start to create perfumes, I have a slightly different model. Rather than kind of my own brand and what having my own brand, what I like to do is I like to scout out perfumers who are working with with challenging materials and seek them out for collaborations. And that's how I came across Prin Lomros in Thailand, who is a filmmaker turned perfumer, who is
Master.
doing some pretty exciting work there
Very
with modern
different.
fragrances. And what I wanted to do in this fragrance was to evoke the ambience of the Vedic rituals that were performed in forests in India about 1,000 years before the birth of Christ. So most of these sacrifices took place in these woody type of regions, much like this. So there were sacrificial fires which were lit over there, and there was a lot of incense and other materials offered into the sacrificial fire. The Hindus, the ancient Hindus, worshipped all the elements. So it was fire, water, the air, the earth. These were sort of the worshipped natural elements, and the purpose of this fragrance was to sort of evoke the smells of that Vedic period where these sacrificial fires were lit, and then there were animals sort of lurking in the background as well.
And you definitely get that. I can, like, the first time I wore this, I kind of got a serene experience of kind of feeling like I was in a dark woody forest with animals peering at me.
Right. Yeah. So Aranyaka again is not a fragrance for everyone, but it is a fragrance for those who are into Orientals, those who love woody incense type of scents. Again, it is definitely challenging because it
Yes.
is meant to take you to a period. In fact, one of the best compliments I got in Agastya was from a person who said that this smells like how sage Agastya would have smelled like. So he's one of the ancient Indian sages. He says that this perfume reminds me of how the ancient gods and sages in Hindu mythology would have smelled like. So,
Wow, that's
so,
interesting.
so again, this is Prin and I were able to work through. So I sort of developed the initial idea and sent it to Prin. He created a few mixes. Now, Prin sort of kind of likes to handle the mixing himself.
Yeah.
So we went through about a dozen iterations of the
Holy cow.
perfume,
Wow.
mostly through mail exchanges before
Yeah.
we got it just right.
Yeah.
And so again, I think was well received. But again,
Yes.
it's challenging. So it's not everyone's cup of tea. And again, it's a perfume which sort of transitions over a period of time.
Yes.
And the animalic musks come out a little bit later. And just
Yep.
to sort of let you know that we didn't kill any goats or anything,
No.
we just obtained the goat hair shavings and created
Yes.
a tincture of those and used it in the perfume.
And it comes out. You definitely. This is, well, other than Haxan, which we're about to get to. It's probably the most animalic and realistic goat fur experience I've ever had. Well, goat hair. Sorry. And I will say this Aranyaka. Before we move on, it's a very, like he said, complex, but it does stand out. It transitions, and no one else is going to smell like it. And we should tell you guys, both of these Aranyaka, well, actually, all three of these are discontinued.
Sold
and-
out, actually,
Yes, yeah, and they were limited release. All three of these were.
Yep.
So let's go ahead and get into the next one. Do you have
Sure.
anything else you need to say about Aranyaka?
No, I think this is it. This was my first foray into perfumery, and then that led to the next one, which was definitely more challenging.
Oh, yeah.
And I consider it one of my most challenging fragrances. But a lot of people think it's lighter than Aranyaka because it's more of a fougere.
Yeah.
Rather, this one is really deep, dark, woody incense. So it comes out as a little bit lighter in the end, but it's quite strange.
I did want to say as well before we moved on, Aranyaka, it is so dark. From the cypriol tree, and that definitely comes out. The cypriol in there is just flippin' gorgeous, guys. You feel like you're in the most dense cypriol forest, but it's so dark from that absolute that You do not want to spray this on clothing. It will definitely leave a stain. Do spray this only on your skin, guys, and let that transition over the day. This will definitely last over 12 hours. You are going to have to just let time transition to let this one pass. Even with scrubbing, this will not go away.
Yeah, and this is totally non-IFRA compliant. So the levels of oak moss are so high in this that this is not going to get past IFRA. That's why it was not sort of released commercially.
And
too largely, yeah.
Both of these actually, well, yeah, these two are extracts. This has like what, 35% cypriol?
This has got about almost 40% is natural oil.
There you go.
In the perfume. So
right.
It's almost pure perfume concentration.
Now, okay, sorry about that. Just wanted to get that out there. So Haxan, also extrait de parfum concentration. Now this one is very complex. As you can see, I've put in quite a big dent out of that. A beautiful green potion. It almost speaks to what this one's all about with that green potion in there. So before I kind of let him get into this, I'll let you. So, yes.
Oh, yes.
Yes. I told you, it just works so well with this environment.
Oh, it really does. It's incredible, yeah.
So with this one, you do get that goat hair right off the blast, but you do get, it is a little bit lighter, not as smoky, not as charred as Aranyaka. I would say that out of the two, this is, it's still complex, but it's not as dark. But it still has a darkness to it. I think it's because of the almost wet moss accords that you get into it. And also you do get a very like pine needle. It's at first it's a little bit more darker, but as time transitions, it gets very fresh fougere style. And the dry down of this is just incredible, very woody, very fresh. You smell like a mountain man, and not like a very clean mountain man that just like rolled through wet soil and pine needles, and maybe had some goats.
Right.
Okay, so what is this one about?
All right, so this fragrance was inspired by essentially witchcraft, and I've been reading up quite a bit on witchcraft and sorcery, and one of the things that really influenced me with this perfume, and its name as well, is Benjamin Christensen's 1922 silent film Haxan, which means hex or the witch, and it's a silent film which details.
It's a documentary.
It's a documentary which details in quite explicit details the practices of witchcraft and sort of the lives witches used to live, the type of ingredients they used in their cures and potions, and that is the type of. So I wanted to create an olfactory equivalent of that. So we did some research on the different types of ingredients that were used in witchcraft potions, essentially, and quite frankly, most of these women were early forms of pharmacists who unfortunately lived on the fringes of society and were persecuted. But they were basically traditional healers as we sort of see them today. And so in Haxan, we try to use, so the perfume has over 100 ingredients. And even though it has 100 ingredients, it feels fairly light. Three different types of lavender oil were used for this particular perfume.
That's where it gets a lot of that crisp freshness, guys. And also, I did forget to mention the wormwood in the Alabama brings a nice complexity, and also it kind of anchors it as well.
Right.
It brings down the sharpness of that lavender and the incense smoke.
Right. So again, there are aromatic elements, there are woody elements, there are certain slight animalic elements. So there's a heavy dose of styrax in here as well. So again, there is a bit of civet in there.
Leathery,
again,
a little bit leathery
leather.
with that goat hair quality.
Yes, so this is sort of like, it kind of starts off a bit funky, but then kind of lands up on your skin ultimately as a sort of a nice aromatic wood. So in that sense, it's
Yes.
it's a traditional fougere opening up with the lavendery elements,
Yes.
and then closing down with sort of the wood and the moss.
And
So
also, I did want to say it almost has a barbershop type quality with that lavender in there
Right.
because it's so clean.
Right.
But also, it anchors down with all those other dark notes. And I think what you and what they did with Prin with Haxan was very awesome. How they took a clean quality and added those dark notes to kind of make it stand out and more complex.
Right. So although you're exactly right, Aranyaka is a little bit more dark. This one
Yes.
has alternating shades of dark and light.
Yes,
So,
yes, that's
so,
perfect way
yeah.
to describe that. So I don't want to make this too long, so let's get to his final. Not his final. He has many more to come, I hope.
Yes.
Right.
We are on 4 and 5, but this is the latest release, sold out in 3 weeks on Lucky Scent. It came out on 11th of November. It was actually blessed in a Shinto shrine in Japan. This is a collaboration with the Japanese natural perfumery house Deser.
Now, this one is my favorite out of all three. I just got this 2 days ago when I picked up Rajesh. He was not only nice enough but respectful enough to hold on to a bottle for me on the side from Lucky Scent, so don't tell anybody. But yes, this composition only came in 33 bottles and 33 ml at that. It was a retail $250 on
Right.
Lucky Scent. Yes.
And
Now, I did want to say, I've been testing this the last 2 days.
This is Keman.
Yes, Keman. Let's put that out there.
Right.
Now, this is by the brand
Deser. Right.
They're a Japanese brand, and if you are familiar with Japanese fragrances, they're a little bit lighter. They still have a complexity to them. They're not simple, but they are very light. They don't want to fill a room, and they are very beautiful and inviting. I would say most of the Japanese fragrances that I've tried. Now, this is my scent of the day. This actually has been my scent of the day for the last 3 days. Now, the first 2 days I wore this, I get a very creamy, beautiful rose. And the rose in there is very different. It's not a traditional rose. As I recall, he told me that he chose a different type of rose. It's a Japanese rose that I've never encountered before. And it works so well on my skin. And actually, my mother sprayed this, tried it, because he brought it with him. And it worked very well and very different on her skin as well. Now, I did want to say, so the first 2 days I tried this, I got a very beautiful rose, creaminess, and also beyond that, you do get almost like a white floralness and a little bit of it brings like a powderiness, but it's very clean. And at the end, towards the dry down, you start get a little bit of a woody quality to it. But today, I wore this and I got something I never encountered before, which I thought was very different. I got a very fresh yuzu mint off the very initial spray, and it lasted about 30 minutes to an hour, and I was just enjoying it. I was like in a summer Japanese heaven delight. Now let's go ahead and tell them what this one's about.
Keman is the lightest of the three compositions.
Definitely.
And it's a positive mystical scent. In other words, it has no dark elements at all. Deser, in fact, is a brand which, just like Darren mentioned, is all about spirituality and personal scents, completely natural scents, absolutely no additives. With no concerns for the market, the highest quality of ingredients used, the most natural ingredients which are directly distilled in from the Dicer garden. So
And
it's
sorry, I
yeah.
did want to say it is very minimalistic. As you can tell, the box barely has anything on there, but their labeling and the packaging itself, even though it's simplistic, it's all about the juice with this perfume.
Right.
Okay, go ahead.
Right. Thank you. So Keman essentially translates to a floral garland. It's actually a ritual decoration which is placed inside Buddhist temples. And so essentially what this perfume is it's a monastic floral agarwood type of perfume.
Yes.
So again, just like George said, it actually opens with notes of yuzu and shiso, which is Japanese mint.
Okay.
But then sort of transitions to a floral middle where the Japanese rose or the hamamatsu comes into play with some jasmine.
Okay.
And then
I definitely get that floral aspect.
And then the perfume settles into a woody base of agarwood, ginkgo grade agarwood obtained from Vietnam. Again, this is non-animalic,
No.
almost a camphorous type of oud. Almost medicinal in nature, and
I wouldn't
cypress.
say too medicinal.
Yeah.
And it's not barnyard oud at
Yeah.
all. It's probably the cleanest, lightest oud I've ever tried, and it's very gorgeous and beautiful. Now, I am not much of an oud fan myself, even though I am the devil. But this is the most gorgeous oud, and I think that I told him in the car on the way over after we had some drinks that if there was any more oud used or any different type of oud, it would have came off too much and probably took off the balance of that beautiful rose.
Right. Well, thank you. Yes, I think so. I think this is meant to be to bring peace and harmony. It is an offering. The hope is to sort of try to bring peace and tranquility in an increasingly chaotic world that we sort of live in.
Yes.
And so this is sort of an offering for that, and therefore it was actually offered in a Buddhist shrine before it was offered as a Lucky Scent exclusive.
No way.
So,
That is amazing.
So it was actually there was a ritual ceremony performed, and the perfume was actually blessed in a Shinto shrine in Hokkaido, Japan. And of course, Lucky Scent introduced it, and it was all gone in a couple of weeks. I'm sorry for those of you who missed out, but there's a few more things on the way. All these are sort of intended to be personal treasures to take you to higher spiritual planes. And
Yes.
And I'm hoping that you will stay tuned. Again, although I have all these perfumes officially sold out, I do have a few bottles in my personal collection, so hit me up if you want a sample or something like that. I'll be more than happy to send it your way.
I did. Now, ending here before we end the video, I am very happy to have all three of these in my collection. Rajesh has been nothing but a great friend, very respectful ever since he's been here, and he has been just very giving. He is one of the most giving people I have ever met, and I just feel blessed that out of fate, I came across him and met him just electronically through the world.
No, the pleasure is all mine. Thank you so much, and I hope you and this was a wonderful introduction, and I hope your viewers get to sample these scents, and please look forward to some more scents coming your way in the next few years.
And in the next video, I will be doing my first impressions on Rajesh's top 5 perfumes of 2019. So stay tuned if you want to watch that. And thank you for watching this rendition of Devilish Scents. If you like what you see today, please subscribe, leave a like if you want to keep it locked with the devil. And I hope to see you guys in the next review. And also, stay tuned if you want to see Rajesh's top 5 favorite perfumes of 2019.
Thank
See
you
later.